Certainly, I was able to get that entrepreneurship and financial security before that, but I was willing and I had the time. Most people don't have the time after a certain age, okay? They don't have the belief or they don't have the time. At 25, you have time. At 30, you still have time, but you lose belief because you start to compare yourself to everybody else your age, AKA status. Do you see what I mean now? When you're 30 and you want to restart everything, change your careers, but all your friends, they're settling down with relationships. Your buddy just moved into a house with his fiance. Now you start to go, fuck, why am I not doing that? And you stop believing in yourself, and that's where you get stuck working for money in a job you don't give a fuck about, all right? So the most important thing when you're young is time. Time and belief. The next thing is skill. What are you good at? I have friends where when they were kids, they would help their dad with his business. So basically I have a friend that like his dad was a carpenter. So whenever he spent time with his dad, he was always working on, you know, building shit with wood. So by the time he was 18, he was really good at building shit and he went into the trades doing carpentry. Now he works successfully as a site supervisor, making a bunch of money, doing carpentry related shit. He has a side business where he builds like picnic tables, fences, hot tubs, etc. So he had that skill ever since he was a kid. Sometimes it's math. Kids that are really good at math, they become math teachers, engineers, coders. For me, I was really good at talking to people and creating stuff, which is very helpful when you run a business, because marketing, right? So my background is business marketing. So I've always been good at selling shit. Now, my passion was not necessarily being a marketer, but my passion was storytelling, presenting, making people laugh. So I actually was in a good position where I combined these together. My passion was also my skill, just like this, right? Whereas some people, they're really fucking good at being a lawyer because they're good at memorizing shit. That's their skill, but they don't give a fuck about it. It's not their passion. Just like some kids, their parents force them to play violin when they're a kid, and as soon as they move out, they literally smash the violin in half. Fuck you, mom and dad. You know? I know a couple of girls like that too. Daddy issues. But my point is, whatever you're good at and whatever you care about now, this is going to be what you choose to pursue. This is going to end up becoming what you chase. And if it's starting a business, then you're going to be able to do the work, but also manage the actual business and gain that experience. And then once you've understood the business aspect, you start to hire other people to do the job for you, and you just look over it. For example, I have a friend that is a master electrician. He spent several years working as an electrician when he had a lot of time. And then he learned everything, was able to do the jobs himself. So on the weekends, he started doing custom side jobs where he basically would put a listing, hey, does anybody need like their lights put in, right? So he would install lights. And I remember paying an electrician to come over and install my lights. The guy came over, he had a 20-year-old kid working for him. He didn't do anything. The kid basically got on the ladder, drilled the holes, put the lights in, and then he just came down, he's like, yep, those wires look good. Boom, that's it. They were in and out of here in 30 minutes. Cost me $850. The point I'm making is, once you have the knowledge and you know how it works, you become an operator, you become a businessman. So you can still do the actual work, which allows you to supervise it, know what's right, what's wrong, etc. Then you hire people underneath you to do that. Another example would be editing videos. I spent years editing my own videos. Now, I just do this part, and somebody else edits my videos for me. Now, these whiteboard videos, they're usually not edited because I do them raw. How much we at right now? 45 minutes? Yeah, I'm a raw dogger, guys. What can I say? I'm a fucking animal. But anyways, I could have somebody do the editing for me. And that's what a business is. So you learn the skill, and then you hire people to do that skill underneath, and then you do the behind the scenes operation stuff. That's a really good strategy, okay? Now the next thing you need to consider is support. So I'm blessed and fortunate to be incredibly good looking. But the middle class. My mom was a teacher. My dad worked in multiple different fields. Like, you know, he was unloading shit at an airport. He was in computer sales. He was an iron worker. He did a bunch of stuff, right? That's probably why I'm the way I am. I like to try different things. My dad was like that too. But I wasn't able to afford to go to university, right? But I could go to college because college is pretty cheap here. And I worked so I could pay for my own shit. And because of that, I grew up in a first world country, which is a massive advantage. And I don't really emphasize this enough. If you're a young man or woman watching this video and really emphasize this enough. If you're a young man or woman watching this video and you're complaining about your life and how hard it is, but you live in North America or a first world developed country, you have internet access, shelter, your parents are still around, shut the fuck up. I'm only gonna have to say that once. You get my point. You should be grateful. So when it comes to support, when you're young, yeah, you have a lot of time. Maybe, you know, you're like me, you work a job or whatever, but your parents are there. You have a house to live in, okay? A lot of the girls I used to date, they would always have parents that paid for all their shit. Usually because they're hot. Hot girls usually have a dad that made a lot of money and married a very hot woman. So that's why, that's the hot daughter formula, okay? Rich man, hot wife, boom, hot daughter. And because of that, they had university tuition paid for. They usually had a nice car that they drove. They got to travel and go to Europe and shit like that. I didn't get any of that, but some people do. Other times though, maybe your dad has a business or he's well off, so he can pay to send you to college or university, you know? My parents didn't really have money, but I'm sure that if I needed it, they could have loaned me money to go to college or university. So depending what your support is, and support could also be like, for example, getting supported by your friends. If you have several brothers and sisters, they can help you out with shit. I remember when I first started my YouTube channel, I had a couple friends that helped me film the videos. I couldn't afford to pay them because I wasn't making any money, but they just decided to do it because they're my friends, okay? So I would consider this support too. Without my friends, I never would have been able to do my prank and interview videos, okay? So they actually helped me. So I kind of fit into this category. I had a lot of time. I supported myself financially, but I had friends that helped me out, okay? And that's very important. And that brings me to the next thing in your position right now. Opportunity. What opportunities are there where you live that you can take advantage of? For example, when I started the property management business with my buddy, I had no interest in being a property manager. However, when we started managing these houses, the guy that actually owned them was very good at business. He was like a mentor to us. He had his hands in all the different pies, okay? The Punjabi guy, classic, slumlord. He managed all these student houses, but he also was involved in like a car dealership. He was a mechanic and he licensed his mechanic license to a local mechanic shop and he got paid through that. He had investments. Like, I got access to all this. So it was a great opportunity for me to learn business. There's probably somebody in your town or city that runs a business that would love for you to come and work for free for them. And eventually they'll either hire you or they'll get you a job. And I made a whole video on this. I'll put the link in the description, but you can get very wealthy and successful by finding a successful man and following in his footsteps. A mentor. Usually from what I've seen, it's kids that have a dad or family member that runs a business and then they work for them, learn the business, and then eventually the business gets passed down to them. So basically rich kids. I didn't have that opportunity, but I do remember there being a lot of opportunities I took advantage of. For example, I never wanted to be a forest firefighter, but one of my roommates in college, his teacher set him aside one day and he's like, hey man, you're in forestry. What are you doing for work this summer? He's like, I don't know. He's like, look, when I was your age, I was out in the bush putting out forest fires. So this is how you do it. You can make like 20, 30K in just a couple months. It's a blast. So my buddy signed up for it. And I'm like, okay, what training do you need for that? He's like, well, there's just a couple certificates, first aid, there's a fitness test you got to do. I'm like, okay, when are you doing all those? He's like, I'm doing them next week. And I'm like, okay, me too. And I went in and I signed up with him. But if I didn't have a friend, I probably wouldn't have done that. I would not have done the fitness test or the first aid or the fucking, you know, SP100 or whatever it's called, where you have to like learn about forest fires. If my friend wasn't doing it, I would not have. So I see this as opportunity. That's why it's super important for you to have a lot of friends, because most of the time, whatever they're doing and succeeding in, they can help you with that. They could at the very least be there with you. So opportunity is absolutely massive, all right? Now, The third situation to be in, and this is a really good situation to be in, is to have time and support, okay? And this doesn't mean you have more support than you do time. It just means that there's a balance there. And this is basically where kids are rich. So I didn't grow up rich, but I've always wanted to be an actor and filmmaker. I don't know if you knew this, but the majority of successful actors, writers, producers, etc., they had rich parents. They either had parents that had money, which allowed them to have a bunch of time and financial support, or they had a parent in the industry. So for example, I think Keanu Reeves, his mom was like a hairdresser for Alice Cooper or something like that. So there's all these like crazy connections in the industry. And that comes down to opportunity, social circle, etc. But the point I'm making is there are those people out there that have a lot of money or support from their parents. And in addition to this, they have time, okay? So that is why people are willing to work for free, if not, very small amount of money for 10 years to become a musician or to become an actor. Because secretly, nobody knows this, but they have a bunch of fucking money, all right? So they have a nice safety net to fall back on. And for me, what I decided to do, unintentionally, was to go into something I hated that paid a lot of money. And now at any moment, I could always go back to this. I could always go back to the skilled trades. I could always potentially go back to running properties. I could always go back to sales or business. I don't intend on it, but this is a safety net that I created for myself. So the hybrid approach here is you spend a couple years in school or working your way up in a certain industry. Let's say, sales or the trades. You get to a point where you're getting paid $30 to $40 per hour, okay? Might take a couple years, depends what you do. I know that if you go out west and work on an oil rig or offshore drilling, offshore fishermen, stuff like that, you can get paid a fuck ton of hazard pay and clear 80 to 100K per year easily without any experience. So that's always an option. That's like the nuclear option. Go out to the oil rig, okay? The problem is everybody there drinks and does drugs and fucks hookers. So you spend all your money because you're so depressed. That's the other problem. You might choose a career that gets paid a lot, has high status, but you're stuck in your hometown around people you hate and you hate your job. There's a couple comedians actually that used to be lawyers, but they just hated it so much they quit in order to do comedy, which pays no money at all for the first 10 years. Point is though, when you have a safety net, when you have something you can fall back on, like a skill set, you're gonna be able to run shit to the moon, okay? Knowing that I could go back into the trades and make 6 figures if I had to, if I was absolutely fucked, allowed me to be okay not making any money for years, right? This is what allowed me to take a bunch of risk. I made more than the average Canadian, but at the same time, like, it was never about the money. You know what I mean? It was always about like what I wanted to do. But I knew the entire time, I believed in myself, first of all. And even though I didn't necessarily have a lot of support as time went on, I supported myself. I guess I'm just a stubborn prick. My parents were supportive of me, even though I wasn't making any money and I was broke. They were still like, we still love you, Jack, And that's usually enough. If your parents don't like you, it can be brutal on you. So I fortunately had that, but I was okay not making any money. And then eventually, when my passion took off, when I got that skill set, like what I'm able to do now, how I'm able to make money now, how I'm able to entertain people, educate, run businesses, etc. This is a culmination of like 6 years at least, okay? Maybe 5 or 6 years. I haven't worked a normal job since, I wanna say 2018, okay? So it's been 6 years, that's fucking nuts. But I did every one of these circles. I did all of this shit. And here's the other thing to take into consideration too. Maybe you still don't know what to do. When I was doing all this shit, I thought, okay, I'm gonna live and be healthy for the rest of my life. I didn't think that I would become like an old man. You know when you're 19 and you're just fucking chugging booze and you're like, oh, I'm immortal, Eventually, I'm probably not gonna feel immortal because as I've gotten older, family members of mine, they've started to get sick. I've had, family members pass away, and that's made me realize, shit, I'm not gonna live forever, right? Status, all I wanted was my friends to like me and to fuck girls. I didn't care about anything else. Location, I just wanted people to like me in my city. I just wanted people I went to high school with to like me. What a fucking idiot move that was. You should stop caring what people from high school think about you, because that's just gonna limit you to high school your whole life. You know those people that peaked in high school? They're still hanging out in your hometown, still talking about the good old times. They never did anything because they still care too much about what other people in their city think about them. All the most successful people that I know, they got as far away as fucking possible from their hometown, their city. So for me, I love Canada. I'm eventually going to come back here and I'm going to have a house in my hometown in Ontario, a house in beautiful British Columbia, Vancouver, Powell River, gorgeous. But realistically, I'm going to live in LA for several years as I make movies and stuff. I also like Guy Ritchie. You know, I like his setup. He lives in like the UK and he films all around the world, but his home base, I believe, is in the UK. I like the idea of having properties in Europe or renting, you know, and at some point, I might run for office. I might have to become Prime Minister of Canada and turn this fucking country around at some point. But that's all in the future. In the meantime, though, I don't want to be strapped here. I don't want to be stuck here. I don't want to have to work a job where I have to show up every day so that I can't travel and can't explore, you know? It's just in my DNA to go on adventures and travel and see shit that is different from around here, okay? So that's something to take into consideration. But I remember when my YouTube channel in 2016 first started making money doing sports highlight reel shit. All of a sudden I was making like $8K a month and I was like, man, this is it, bro. $8,000 a month, that's like something like $85,000 a year. And I think that a study actually showed that this is the most satisfied people are in life and fulfillment when they make about 80K a year. Because a couple years ago when the study was done, if you made 80K a year, you could get a down payment on a house, you could get a mortgage, so you could have a house and you could raise a family. 80K a year was enough for you to be happy. And then once you started making more money than that, you started comparing yourself to others, status, you started wanting to buy nicer things, you started to get more stressed out about money, and it actually decreased your mental health. But up until you hit that 80K a year, you are stressed out because you're running low on money and you can't afford shit. You can't pay bills and you feel like you're behind amongst everybody else. And if there's an emergency, your car breaks down or whatever, you're fucked, right? So I thought that was very interesting. But newsflash, in Ontario, cost of living is so fucking high that you can't actually afford a decent house unless you're making well over 6 figures, you have a nice down payment from your parents, or you split on a house with a partner. So because of that, people aren't able to get houses. They're not able to get a good deal on rent. Wages aren't going up in their industries because they chose the wrong thing or they went into an industry that was replaced by AI. That's why, again, it's super important for you to read books and think about 30 years from now, you know? How many jobs that exist right now are going to be automated? I'm sad about this, but a lot of manufacturing jobs, like the core backbone of Hamilton and Ontario, they're going to be gone. I have friends that work in factories and they've been laid off. A lot of shit is getting outsourced, which is when it's easier and cheaper to manufacture stuff outside of Canada or the United States, overseas, where they can pay people less money. So because of that, all the work is going there and people are losing their jobs, AI is replacing it. So I want to say chase your passion, but at the same time, unless you're making over $100,000 per year after a couple of years, then you're not going to be able to afford a house. And if you can't afford a house, then you're going to feel like, well, fuck this. My status is low compared to everybody else. In Canada, we've essentially been lied to, where we're only successful if we move out of our parents' house and live in a house, which I agree with, to be fair. Like, I wouldn't want to be in my 20s or 30s living at home with my parents. But at the same time, the economy has changed. It's totally different than it was in the 80s and 90s when it was a lot easier, right? You could basically afford a house with 1 year's salary back then. Now, on average, it takes 5 to 6 years just for a down payment, okay? The average Canadian makes 50K a year. Now, after taxes, that's about 30, 35K left over. But then you take into consideration rent, how a single apartment or even a 2-bedroom apartment is like $2,000 a month. So that's fucking, I don't know, 12 months worth. That's about at least 12,000, more like $20,000 worth of rent gone. And then having a car payments, groceries are expensive, going out with friends. By the time all is said and done, the average Canadian making 50K a year only has maybe $8,000 or $10,000 left over, which is terrifying. At that rate, it would take you 20 years just to get a 20% down payment on a $1 million house. Or 10 years if you go into it with a partner, AKA your wife, right? Or if you're a woman watching this, your husband. So that's 10 years. Or if you have parents that have money and they help you. And pretty much all the people that I know that have gotten houses in their 20s, they had a little bit of help from their mom and dad, okay? And that's okay, that's normal. You know, when my kids one day buy a house, I'm probably gonna help them out. So it is what it is, right? But the point I'm making is, just on that math alone, even if you have a decent paying job, like 50 to 70K a year, it would take you anywhere from 15 to 20 years just for a down payment. Or you could get into a relationship with somebody, which is another mistake people make. They buy a house with their girlfriend, so now they're literally landlocked in a relationship, and they have to work that job to pay for the house and be in that relationship. Then you're totally fucked. Then it's super hard to come back from. And these are the terrifying stories I read about online of these guys that get divorced, and it destroys their whole life. They get kicked out of the house, they lose everything. If they have kids, they have to now share custody, and they're raising a kid. So that it's not like you can just travel the world when you have to raise a kid, right? So again, these are all things you really need to take into consideration, bro. It might be cool to bang a lot of chicks and raw dog when you're 21, but once you have a kid and you have to work a job in your city and you're kind of stuck there, now you're gonna have to wait another 18 years. So okay, at the age of 50, you're gonna switch it up. Why not just know all of this now and avoid those problems in your 20s, man? This shit is fire. Before we move on to the next thing, I just want to say thank you for watching this. Best professor ever, I know. But I want you to understand that, like, if I could go back in time and know all of this shit, it would have made my life so much greater. You know, it would have saved me so much stress and pain. And the reason I'm making this is because I don't want you to have to go through that same pain and frustration. I don't want you to have to go to Christmas and see all your extended family and be fucking embarrassed about turn it around still. But you just need to understand all of this, all right? Now, the thing with opportunity is that because of all of the information we now have access to on the internet, free education basically, we have so much more opportunity than previous generations. You could actually speed run all of this by just finding ways to make money on the internet. And I don't mean like starting a YouTube channel necessarily. I don't mean like drop shipping or one of those many courses that people try to sell you on, you know, Amazon fulfillment, that kind of shit. What I'm saying is actual universities like Harvard, etc., they post their lectures online for free. There are so many YouTube channels that have entire multi-hour guides on how to be a copywriter, how to code, how to program. Like, I don't get how people have any kind of excuse as to why they can't become a programmer or coder. All the information is online. I'm sure if I was totally fucked, I could learn how to code. There's so many skills and resources online. The problem is, as a man, you want to skip all that because you want something that's convenient, right? Why would I go and pick up a pizza if they could just deliver the pizza to my house and it's free? Why the fuck would I go there? It's the same thing with guys, usually teenagers, trying to make money online. When I was a teenager, I didn't go on YouTube and watch videos on fucking how to make money online. I just watched like funny videos, you know, movies, shit like that. But now I know there's a bunch of young men that have seen a shit ton of like how to make money online, TikToks and Reels, and they go on YouTube and they see all these videos, how I make 10K a month, etc. And they think that, wow, I don't have to go to school. I don't have to have a passion, and I can basically put in as little effort as possible and make as much money as possible. Because you guys are being sold this dream outcome, right? The flashy cars, the nice house, the models that were paid for, and then they tell you, well, hey, just buy my course and you can get this much money. Now, here's the thing. I understand both sides because I sell a course. I have multiple courses. They primarily focus on social skills. So I help guys that are busy entrepreneurs get their dream partner. How to be charismatic, how to speak like this for over an hour long, make friends, get girls. This is something that doesn't make my product better. Like, if I sell a bunch of courses on teaching social skills, it doesn't mean I get better at social skills. It's like a personal trainer. There's personal trainers out there that teach you how to get in good shape, right? But the more products they sell, the more courses they sell, it doesn't make them more jacked. It doesn't improve their physique so that they sell more. And that's the same thing with me. That's why I don't have as much of a problem with this. However, I know a lot of guys that they make all of their money by selling courses. And the more money they make selling courses, the more cars, the more houses, the more legit they look. And then people see that and they go, wow, I could be like him. All I have to do is buy his course. So the question is, the person you're buying the course from, do you want to be like them? You know, I have a course that teaches you how to be a YouTuber. You can go and look at videos of mine that have millions of views. I have several 100,000 subscribers. I've had multiple channels, and I make a significant amount of money just from AdSense and brand deals alone. So if you spend $500 on a course I sell, there's a high likelihood you can make that back because you can see the results, you can see the proof. The problem is confusing industries like drop shipping, Amazon, etc. You don't see that money right away. You have to invest a lot of money up front. You have to buy the products, you have to ship them, you have to get approved by Amazon. There's a bunch of stuff, and the profit margins aren't that simple to explain. I'm very bullish on being a YouTuber because all you have to do is be entertaining or help people solve a problem, and you get millions of views. And YouTube pays you for those views. So it's a really simple business. Become good at talking, talk about your genuine interest or things that you have experience in, help solve people's problems, and you get paid thousands of dollars a month. In addition to this, you could sell merch, you could do brand deals, you can sell courses, info products, consulting. Once you have enough money, you can invest in a software and then get all of your audience using that software. And because of that, get your software acquired for 10 times the value since it's a software. So like being a content creator is a great way to make money. But I do know at the same time that a lot of you don't necessarily want to talk in front of a camera. So you'd rather do something behind the scenes like, you know, copywriting, drop shipping. It doesn't require your face. They tell you it doesn't require any money and they make it seem easy. So the problem is a lot of guys, they don't take into consideration all of the actual work it took to get to that point, right? I'm not going to tell you you can just become a YouTuber and start making 10K a month in 3 months, you know? When I how to make money on the other channel, right? These guys making money drop shipping, Amazon, like all these 10K a month YouTube videos you see, they did this for 5 or 6 years. They learned a bunch of master knowledge and implemented it and now are able to make that amount of money in a short amount of time. But you're skipping that part because you think you can just spend 5 hours watching a course and know all the things that they learned over the course of 5 years. It's just not going to happen. So that's just my warning on courses. Like if you don't want to be a YouTuber, don't buy my course. If you have all your dating and friends and social skill problems solved, you're not going to have any need to join my socializer school, my paid community that has my courses in it, right? So if there's somebody out there in your city I'm like, hey, can I pay to spend an hour asking you questions or work for them for free as an internship, a mentorship, a co-op? When I was in college, they would set us up with companies where we could get a job as part of our credits at school, and they either didn't pay us at all or they paid us not very much, but we got all that experience by working for them. This is very common in most college and university programs. You get what's called a placement, where a company hires you for like 2 or 3 months over the summertime. You work from them, and then on your resume it says, hey, you worked for so-and-so. And that way it's easier for you to get a job. So that's an option as well. And if you don't know what you want to do, like I said, you can look up industries such as real estate, sales, the trades. That way you can pocket a bunch of money, right? You can spend the first half of your 20s just stacking money. And then by 25, let's say you have $200,000 saved up. You rent an apartment with a friend. You guys split on rent, $1,000 each. Your cost of living is pretty low. You could survive for at least 5 to 10 years on that $200,000, especially if you invest it. And during those 10 years, you can chase that fucking passion of yours, bro. That's my point. You can take that idea, that thing you want to do, and pursue it viciously every single day, every waking hour you're not at your job, chase that fucking passion, and you're able to afford this for years because of all the work you did earning that money, doing things you didn't want to, like trades, etc. And in addition to this, working part-time while you did it, okay? I know plenty of people that are in sales, but they still work a day job. They get home at like 5 o'clock and then they do 4 hours of calls. And eventually they're gonna have enough money coming in, they can switch into this. So it's totally doable, okay? And I just wanna say this too. I should have mentioned it earlier on in the video, but life isn't about money, but you can't learn that lesson until you have money, okay? Just like life isn't about sex and girls until you succeed in dating and having sex with girls. I remember having a light bulb moment when I was like 19, 20. I was so desperate and thirsty. I was just, all the hormones rushing through my body. I was horny all the time. I wanted to fuck hot girls. And finally, I started to bang them. And I remember one time I was with this girl and my whole week, I was super horny. I was like, oh, I'm gonna go over to her house, bust the biggest nut. And then I get to her house after like we, go for dinner, get to her house, movie, hook up on the couch. I drop a huge nut and I'm just sitting there like, man, I want to go home. I want to go play guitar. I don't even give a fuck about this right now. It's called post-nut clarity. It's where you clear your head. And oftentimes the same thing happens with money. I remember winning a school games contest recently. I did $42,000 in 1 month, USD, on my online community, which is just one of my income streams. So as an example, when you do have years of experience and you have multiple businesses and stuff, you have different income streams. So maybe we'll talk about that. But I remember as soon as I won, I was fucking depressed. I was like, okay, now what? What was that for? What did I want to win that for? Bragging rights? For status? Status amongst other people? I remember I'm alone in my house, working alone, because all my other buddies, they don't run businesses. They work normal jobs. And it was raining outside. And I was like, well, since I got the money anyways, I'm not going to drive to the store to get my food. So I ordered on Uber Eats brunch with French toast. And I sat there by myself and I ate fucking brunch. And I was like, what the fuck, But I would never have understood that until I made that money, went through years of not having money and failing in order to get that perspective. As much as it doesn't matter to you now, like it didn't matter to me when I was 20, when you get older, it is going to matter because it ends up being your options, your safety net. You can have money to invest in a passion of yours. You can switch careers. You can travel, relocate, go to a new city, go to a new country, do something totally different. Sometimes I go and I live in Vancouver for 2 months because I feel like it. Sometimes I go and live in fucking Bali in a house filled with other people that just surf all day because I fucking feel like it. That's a power that I want you to have. And that is the power that comes with having a skill that is also a passion that is remote. This is the future, guys. The economy is moving away from manufacturing and doing fucking factory work and labor and even white collar shit. Like a lot of the stuff people went to university for 5 or 10 years ago, it's useless now because AI has replaced it. So the new economy, the new industry, the new way you can make a living is going to change. So you need to be aware of it. You need to think what businesses and opportunities are going to exist in 5 to 10 years from now. What skills can I go to school and learn that can get me a job and salary in 5 to 10 years? What businesses are going to be needed in years? Do you guys remember when Uber Eats first came out? There was a bunch of other apps delivering food. Now there's like 2 or 3. There's like Uber Eats, Skip the Dishes, DoorDash, right? But when these things first come out, there's thousands of competitors, but most of them don't make it, okay? Just like when crypto came out, there's all these shit coins. When AI came out, there's a bunch of AI startups. Each time a new thing comes around, there's a bunch of opportunity early on, and then everybody starts doing it. And since everybody's doing it, the value goes down because if everybody wants to do something, they'll do it for free, if not significantly less, therefore there's less value in it. But if it's something nobody wants to do, then they're all houses. You know those guys that climb those power towers, like those electrical towers where you're like 500 feet up in the air and you're switching a light bulb, those guys get paid $250,000 a year. Why? Because nobody wants to climb a 500 fucking foot tower during a storm and change a light bulb and then climb down a ladder and potentially fall to their death. So if you have a high propensity for risk, if you have big balls, I say go into the fucking extreme trades. They're very dangerous.
Alright, so because once we complete this mission, there's nothing to do for a long time, we'll just move the airplane after. And then maybe with our flight experience of realizing we can go at a higher altitude and have a lower, you know, more reasonable Mach number. Instead of 120 meters per second of drag, we can have like, sorry, what is that? 120 kilonewtons of drag. We could have 50 kilonewtons, and we can maybe make it to the KSC. I'm curious to see how far we'll get. Oh, I forgot to actually accelerate here, but we're barely almost on time, so who cares? Oh shit. Okay, we just have to do a quick reload here, because before we actually accelerate, we have to detach the buoys. So the buoys is this thing here, and we are now still headed for the Earth-39K, and we should now complete the maneuver. Where's my boy? Goodbye, boy. We are coming back to the moon. It's still 20 minutes away from it. We should be totally fine. Just beautiful. Almost feel like these might be blocking. I don't think they do in the game, but just for realism, we're gonna retract them. Doesn't it look nice and compact? Well, except this here. That looks like shit. Oh god, is it beautiful. Waterfall is the shit. Oh, it's so good. I remember being like, oh, I bought KSC1 just that KS2 is coming out, and now I'm like, yo, KSC1 is the best. We have almost completed the maneuver. This is starting to come down. We're 1 minute off though. Kinda sucks, but I don't think it matters much. Alright. The maneuver has been complete. We are now totally fine. And I think what we want to do next is probably decelerate this even more. And then just, actually no, we want to decelerate, I think when we're here. Or maybe we'll decelerate here. Or just decelerate from here into here. I think we could actually do that. I don't know if it's efficient. But we don't have any sunlight, which sucks right now. Are we charging? No, we're not, because we have the stupid radiator. Alright, GG's.